Welcome back to my channel, Celeb Buzz. Please share and subscribe and press the bell icon for new updates. Peter Breck really hated him more than anyone. Peter Breck was born Joseph Peter Breck on March 13th, 1929 in Rochester, New York. Joseph Peter Breck grew up loving art because his dad, Joseph Breck, was a jazz music player and later worked at the Rochester Museum of Art. Even though he was around art early on, Peter didn't know he wanted to act at first and tried many different jobs before becoming a performer. After high school, Breck joined the United States Navy, where people knew him for working hard and never giving up. These things would later show up in the characters he played on TV. After the Navy, he went to the University of Houston, where he studied drama and started acting in plays. He later joined the Alley Theater in Houston, which helped him learn how to act on stage and made him respect acting even more. Breck moved to movies and TV pretty fast. Once he went to Los Angeles, he got his big break with parts in early TV shows like Maverick, Cheyenne, and 77 Sunset Strip. People liked watching him because he was tough, but also someone you could relate to. Pretty soon, he was mostly acting in Western shows, which were really popular back then, and Breck was really good at them. He could play both good guys and complicated characters really well. Peter Breck became famous when he played Nick Barkley, the angry but loyal and brave son in The Big Valley, an ABC Western TV show that was on from 1965 to 1969. He acted with famous stars like Barbara Stanwyck, Richard Long, and Linda Evans. Breck's way of playing Nick really connected with people watching. He brought lots of energy and passion to the role that worked perfectly with his TV brothers and sisters, who were more calm and quiet. His acting helped make The Big Valley one of the most loved Western shows ever. Nick Barkley's hot temper, strong loyalty to family, and strong sense of right and wrong showed how good Breck was at acting. Even though The Big Valley was his most famous role, Breck was in lots of TV shows during the 1960s and 1970s. He was in shows like Perry Mason, Bonanza, The Virginian, Gunsmoke, and Mission Impossible. He also acted in movies like The Beatniks in 1959, The Crawling Hand in 1963, and Lada Dog in 1962. Even though many of these movies weren't as popular as his TV work, Breck always worked hard and tried to do his best in every role. Later in his career, Breck moved to Canada and kept acting in both TV and movies. He also taught acting classes and helped young actors learn, sharing what he had learned for many years in show business. His teaching showed how much he respected acting and wanted to help others in a job that had been so important to his life. The next year, in 1991, Breck got people excited again when he played Shamir, the powerful chief of all genies in the NBC TV special I Still Dream of Jeannie. This fun reunion movie brought back memories for fans of the famous I Dream of Jeannie TV series. It brought back beloved stars Barbara Eden and Bill Daly, along with actors like Al Waxman and Ken Kercheval. Breck's way of playing Shamir added magic and power that made the story better, reminding people how good he was at different types of acting. Showing his range even more, in 1993, Breck appeared in the cult horror movie sequel, The Unnamable 2, The Statement of Randolph Carter, playing Sheriff Hatch. This movie let him explore darker and more intense character work, showing even more that he could adapt to different types of movies beyond the westerns and dramas that first made him famous. By 1996, Breck was still amazing TV audiences, guest starring in an episode of the well-liked revival of The Outer Limits, a series people loved for its interesting science fiction and suspenseful stories. His part in the show proved he was still important in the always changing TV world. Not just doing live action roles, Breck used his special voice talents for cartoons in 1998, playing the character of Farmer Brown in Critters, an episode of the new Batman adventures. This role showed another side of his talent, connecting him with a whole new group of viewers through animated storytelling. Breck's last TV appearance came in 2002 with a guest role on the show John Doe, marking the end of an amazing career that lasted decades and different types of shows. In his later years, many of his movie roles were in independent films and festival-only releases, quietly helping with projects that, while not seen by mainstream audiences, showed his continuing love for acting and storytelling. In 1960, Peter Breck married the love of his life, dancer Diane Bourne, in what would become a strong and lasting marriage. Diane, who had experience in performing arts, brought grace and creativity into Breck's life, matching his own love for acting and storytelling. Their marriage was more than just a personal promise. It was a partnership based on respect for each other, shared dreams, and the emotional support needed to handle the pressures of life in the entertainment business. At a time when Hollywood marriages were often short and troubled, Peter and Diane stood out as a couple who stayed devoted to each other through all the good times and bad times of their lives together. Their happiness grew even more with the birth of their only child, a son named Christopher. As a young boy, Christopher brought huge happiness and pride to his parents, who loved him and put their family life first, despite the demands of Peter's growing TV and movie career. Peter, known for his roles in westerns and action dramas, was also a loving and present father, often seen at his son's school events and sports games whenever his filming schedule allowed. The bond between Peter, Diane, and Christopher was close, based on warmth, encouragement, and a deep love for each other. Sadly, however, the Breck family would face a heartbreaking time that no parent is ever ready for. In a cruel twist of fate, their beloved son Christopher was told he had leukemia, a type of blood cancer that would eventually take his life. Despite their best efforts to support him through medical treatments and emotional care, Christopher died from the illness at the young age of 30. His death was a terrible loss that deeply affected both Peter and Diane. Friends and coworkers saw how Peter, who had faced many make-believe hardships in his acting roles, now faced the most unimaginable grief in real life. The loss of Christopher marked a turning point in Peter Breck's life. Though he rarely talked publicly about the tragedy, those close to him noticed a change in how he acted, a quiet sadness that stayed beneath his calm appearance. Yet despite their grief, Peter and Diane leaned on each other for strength. Their lasting love provided comfort and some healing. They continued to honor their son's memory in private ways, never letting his spirit be forgotten. For Peter Breck, the memory of his son stayed in his heart for the rest of his life, a reminder of how fragile and beautiful family is and the lasting power of love. Of all the people Peter Breck met during his long and varied acting career, there was one man who stood out, not for friendship, admiration, or even rivalry, but for the deep, simmering anger Breck felt toward him, Richard Long. Their hate was not about small professional disagreements or short personality fights. It was a lasting, and to those who watched it up close, clear grudge that never fully went away. Breck, known for his powerful performances and fiery energy on screen, especially in his breakout role as Nick Barkley on The Big Valley, was not someone easily bothered, but something about Long triggered a deep, almost animal-like irritation in him. It started on the set of The Big Valley, where both men were cast as brothers. While the show's producers may have hoped for a believable brotherly bond, what they got instead was a Cold War that played out just beyond the camera's view. Breck's intense and physical style of acting clashed harshly with Long's more quiet, careful approach. Where Breck brought emotional ups and downs and spontaneity, Long showed a smooth, measured calmness that Breck found unbearably smug. To Breck, Long's behavior didn't seem like professionalism. It came across as arrogance. Breck believed Long thought he was smarter and artistically better, a silent looking down that got on his nerves with every shared scene. Behind the scenes, their interactions were no warmer. Crew members often reported obvious tension whenever the two were in the same room. Breck was known for being a warm and generous presence to those he liked, quick with a laugh, full of energy, always ready to dive into a scene, but around Long, he would grow quiet, moody, or short, sometimes even storming off set after a particularly strained take. Friends of Breck would later admit that Peter felt Long had a tendency to manipulate situations to his advantage, undermining him quietly with producers, or making himself look better at Breck's expense. Whether real or imagined, Breck saw a pattern of passive-aggressive moves from Long that he could neither forgive nor forget. The anger may have also been rooted in more personal territory. Some guessed that Breck viewed Long as a threat, not in terms of raw acting ability, but in terms of how the industry treated him. While Breck poured himself into every role with unfiltered intensity, Long seemed to rise through the ranks more smoothly, with less effort and more praise. Breck hated what he saw as favoritism in politics. And Richard Long, whether by accident or on purpose, represented everything Breck hated about Hollywood's inner workings. Their different worldviews, Breck's idealism versus Long's practicality, only made the gap between them bigger. Even years after The Big Valley ended, Breck never softened his stance. When asked in later interviews about his time on the show, he was generous with his praise for Barbara Stanwyck and Lee Majors, but obviously silent or evasive when Richard Long's name came up. In private conversations, he was more direct, talking about Long in bitter tones and making it clear that of all his professional relationships, this was the one marked by never-ending dislike. Those who knew Breck well said it wasn't in his nature to hold grudges lightly. So the fact that his hatred toward Long stayed unchanged spoke volumes. For Peter Breck, Richard Long was not just a difficult co-worker, he was the symbol of every frustration Breck felt in a career that often required compromise. Long, with his polished exterior and backstage maneuvering, represented a kind of fakeness that Breck, a man of intense conviction and authenticity, simply could not stand. And so, despite the countless people Breck worked with over decades, it was Richard Long who earned the questionable distinction of being the one man Peter Breck truly hated more than anyone. In June 2010, Peter Breck's wife Diane went to his official website to share an important and deeply personal update with his fans and followers. She revealed that Peter had been told he had dementia, a progressive brain condition that affects memory, thinking, and the ability to do everyday tasks. This announcement was important not only because it marked a change in Peter Breck's public presence, but also because it showed the couple's honesty and dedication to keeping fans informed. Diane explained that because of the effects of the disease, Peter was no longer able to do some of the activities that had been a cherished part of his connection with fans. Most notably, he could no longer sign autographs. For many actors, autograph signings are a meaningful way to connect with their audience and show appreciation. So this change was certainly sad. Despite this limitation, Diane told fans that Peter still found joy in reading letters sent by his admirers. This detail showed that even as dementia affected certain parts of his communication, his spirit stayed engaged and touched by the kindness and support from around the world. Diane also gave a hopeful update about his physical health, emphasizing that Peter was still physically healthy at that time and did not need medication for his condition. This distinction was important because it showed that although dementia impacted his mind, his body stayed strong for the moment, allowing him to enjoy life's simpler pleasures. Following the first announcement, Diane continued to keep fans and the public informed about Peter Breck's health journey. On January 10th, 2012, she reported that Peter had been hospitalized. The reasons for this hospitalization were related to complications from his illness, as dementia often leads to increased vulnerability to other health issues, infections, or injuries. This hospitalization marked a serious turning point in Peter's condition and showed the severity of his decline. Diane's openness during this time showed her dedication to honesty and the care she provided as his spouse, helping his fans understand the challenges he faced in his final months. Less than a month later, on February 6, 2012, Peter Breck passed away at the age of 82. He died in Vancouver, British Columbia, a city known for its calm beauty and peaceful surroundings, which might have provided some comfort during his final days. His death marked the end of a remarkable life and career that spanned decades, during which he earned respect and admiration as a talented actor and beloved public figure. The announcement of his passing was met with heartfelt tributes from fans and colleagues alike, reflecting the lasting impact he had made both on screen and in the hearts of those who followed his work. Diane's role throughout his illness and up until his death highlighted the deep bond they shared and her unwavering support during the most challenging times.